Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. So a viewer kind of asked this in one of my political videos here, and it really made me want to discuss this because I'm someone who has lived under both the American system as well as the United Kingdom's NHS system, which is probably considered to be one of the better socialized medicine programs in the world, if not the best one out there. And I've actually lived under that and lived under this and seen the taxation differences in the two countries and the standard of living difference. And what people need to understand is that free healthcare isn't free. And the only people who really do better on a socialized plan like they have with the NHS there, again, is someone who's observed it, observed how people deal with it, who gets the most out of it, and compared it to the American system. People who are below working class or below the poverty level are the only people who particularly benefit from this, because what you'll find in places like the United States, any larger company, meaning, large meaning more than a dozen or two employees, is usually required by law to offer some sort of decent medical insurance plan. And what you find in the United States is that if you actually have decent corporate coverage for your medical, which tends to be very cheap if you're a full-time employee anywhere, you actually get access to considerably better medical care than you're going to get even on the NHS. And I'm not saying the NHS is bad. I mean, if you're destitute, the NHS is amazing. But for people who are working class, full-time, middle class, things like that, they're going to end up most of the time paying less money and having access to slightly better medical care, faster medical care, more comprehensive medical care through their employer in the United States under our privatized system. Now, the difference being, again, if you are at the poverty line or below and you can't work or you're fully medically disabled, the American system does suck. The NHS is considerably better in terms of what you have access to, but for anyone working full-time or who's the head of a household who works full-time, if you're a member of their family, you're actually going to be better off. And this is, again, my observation having lived in both countries for years and seen the various things that people have access to and talked to people and just seen it all firsthand. That's just my take on it. But the other thing that you have to factor in is, again, this whole idea of free. Free isn't free. It comes out of your taxes. And when you look at the taxation difference between, say, living in a place like Texas versus living in a place like the United Kingdom, the taxation difference is enormous, even for someone who's working class. Let's say you're just upper working class or lower middle class. You're going to pay thousands and thousands of dollars or pounds or euros more per year just in taxation to live in those countries, and it is going to be dramatically more than you're probably going to get back in medical care. Because again, if you have a full-time job in the United States, you probably have medical coverage through your work, through your company insurance. And that's the thing that people need to realize. Just because they're calling something free doesn't mean that it's free. You're still paying for it, and that's the thing that people need to grasp. You're still paying for that coverage. And honestly, again, the difference is dramatic. When you go into any of the NHS hospitals and you compare them to any of the private hospitals in the United States that your company insurance is going to cover, the difference when you walk in the door is immediately different. Like just in terms of cleanliness, how old the buildings and things are, just the quality of the healthcare that you get, just even how friendly people will be and how comprehensive they'll be versus when you go to the UK, it's dramatically different. You do not get the same level of care. And you are still paying for it. That's the thing that you have to keep in mind with anything like this. It's coming out of your taxes. The income tax difference is enormous. The sales tax difference is enormous. You pay taxes on everything in England. You simply cannot afford the same quality of life on the same income in most of the United Kingdom compared to at least 70 to 80% of the regions of the United States. Again, barring places like New York City that are overcrowded, or someplace like LA that's overcrowded, you simply cannot afford the same quality of life, both in large part due to the taxation, particularly the sales tax, income tax, council tax, everything that you have to pay versus just the infrastructure differences. So, and again, these things are not free. Anything that the government gives you comes at the expense of being taxed, and government is not known for being efficient or making efficient use of the money compared to the private sector. The private sector has to provide a competitive service at a competitive price in order to get your business, to get contracts, to win out. Socialized programs are not always required to do that, and so therefore you tend to squander a lot of money on bureaucracy. A lot of money gets wasted. And so, again, at the end of the day, you don't always get your money's worth from any sort of socialized system, but you still have to pay for it either way. It's still coming out of your taxes. And again, that might sound nice to the few people, the minority of people who are living below the poverty line, who either can't work, refuse to work, things like that. But for people who are gainfully employed, they work full time, or they have enough independent income that they can actually afford medical insurance, socialized medicine is actually not going to do as well for them as what they already have access to. So they're going to lose out on it in the end. And remember, guys, free things from the government are actually not free. You still have to pay for them. Someone has to pay for them. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.